Hello and welcome to I Am Self-Love. This is a challenge and it's a 4-day class with me, Mia Saenz. And if you're listening to this on the replay, it's so much more fun in person. It's so much more interactive. I get to see the smiling faces and it's really beautiful. So there's a lot and not a lot into what we're doing in self-love. And maybe when I say it's not a lot, I'm just trying to calm you down because there's so much to strengthening, sharpening, witnessing ourselves and our self-worth, which is the most powerful place to be in self-love, right? Is ourself, to understand our authentic self, our civic self. Now we had homework. We had homework over the last 2 days. We went over day one yesterday. I do want to recap on both of them. I first want to see where you guys stand and what you got out of the homework, what you have questions about, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see more. The reason I'm asking is because I'm actually considering it just came to me last night. I'm like, I love this stuff so much that I'm teaching, and the wording I am self-love, that I'm going to also turn this into a program within itself, all the tools and all that stuff. So it's super powerful. So let's hear from you guys. Don't be shy. Go ahead.
So, you know my story. I was living in my story for the last 2 years. We've been working together, and I made a conscious choice that I'm changing my story. But like you said, the events of the abuse did happen. It's not like I can just say they didn't happen.
Exactly.
But to me, working through getting to forgiveness, I was having a lot of trouble and I was getting very guilty and shameful at myself for not wanting to let go of the unforgiveness that I was holding that represented sadness, but there was bitterness in there as well. And just been working through that. And like you're always telling me, be gentle in the process, whatever comes up, but dig for deeper. And so yesterday, of course, the first thing you said was, who are the people who influenced you? So of course, my brain went to my fucking mother, excuse my French, but my parents, and what a tragedy. And then I said to myself, no, I'm going to think, if I didn't have any constant source of love in my childhood, when did I actually get some? And I had this beautiful friend, she's 15 years older than me, so she acted like a mother that I never had, the sister that I never had, the best friend I never had. She taught me unconditional love. She told me when I was in my 20s, well, you picked your parents, so you came in as this soul. And I was just like, I did not pick my parents. Who would do that? Who in their right mind would pick such trauma? But now 30 years later, everything that she said to me, but she loved me in the process of growing, and she accepted me with my flaws. And even though she held a higher vision for me and said, Nicole, I'm going to call you on your SHIT. Well, I already said the F word, so I guess I ruined that. But call you on
We're not being regulated by the FDA, so it's okay.
She called me on my shit, and when I was running my patterns, like you do, but lovingly.
I hope I don't love
a higher vision for me, and held that hope for me that I could be more. And so that was where it had to go back to 20. It didn't go before 20. But can I be grateful that came to me at 20? Yes. I wish it had come before, but it didn't. But she still holds a special place in my heart for showing me unconditional love.
That's beautiful. That's really, really lovely. And maybe today sit with that whole thing again, right? The conversations, make it so solid within you that nothing can shake you. That's the point of coming across and bringing forth the people that influenced us. Now, we're not talking about in the negative way. Sorry, I haven't flipped my hair yet. Who wants to have negativity reinforced on us, right? That's not who we are. We're spiritual, divine, gentle, loving beings that are intelligent, intellectual, conscious, harmonious. I want to say divine again, but I don't know how many times I can. Divine, 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 divine. So we're all of these and so much more. And so I'm happy that you got to this place, Nicole, because you need to keep focusing and creating your story, right? Of who you are, yourself. So today is basically about self-worth, in the layman's term. But also, you're an Academy member, and there is a forgiveness letter writing system in there that I put in there. So go in there and really begin to forgive yourself, 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 yourself. Because the bottom line is you're just now really starting to see that difference, because there's a part of you that still keeps coming in and smacking you silly. Every time you come around to the graceful and the greatness of who you are, your story comes up to pop you in the head. Oh, who do you think you are? I'm going to make you get sick again. We're going to do this all over again. And so,
Yeah,
although
I just got out of bed like today, and I put clothes on and said, I'm well today, so I'm out of bed.
good,
But the last 2 days, I was so sick that I wasn't even going to be on camera, but I wanted to be supportive of you. So I was like, okay, today I'm grateful that I could get out of bed and be.
Well, our
Right.
mind, this is what's so powerful. I want each of you to choose a time in your life. If it's current, it's better, but where you've stretched yourself to come and be who you didn't know you were. I'll give you an example. She just gave you one too, about how, those of you who don't know Nicole, she's had about 20 years of sickness and lots of surgeries. And so what we're doing is we're healing all that
30,
crap.
30,
And okay,
30.
30, healing all the garbage. And she's so different from where she was with me, in her work. So I want to share this. I recognized something about myself last night. And I share because these are aha moments that if I have them, you guys can have them too. So what we do, again, we live experientially as humans. So we share and we love with each other. That's the only way we know that it's time and okay to progress when we don't know it. I'll give you two examples. First one, I was about 9 years old, maybe 10. And my mom, as most of you know, was insane. Technically, literally, medically, she was schizophrenic. She was bipolar. She was deemed a narcissist in the 70s, one of the first women narcissists that were branded that. And so when I was about 10 years old, my mom was out doing whatever my mom was doing, and we were locked in the house and we were fighting, my sister and I. And she was 3.5 years older, and she used to draw an invisible line with her foot along the floor. Don't you cross this. What have you done? Hold on, let me turn off somebody's, mute them. Oh, I just muted you. Nicole, you can unmute yourself because we were still talking. So she drew this invisible line, and don't you cross this. And then she said, you know what? We don't have to do this. We don't have to keep redoing what our mother has done to us and to our family. And that was the first change, where I identified as a child. Oh, I don't have to have this experience in my life. So when I told you that I was going to share with you about a transformational experience, how we can again push ourselves forward, this little experience happened to me last night. My dog came to see me. That's why I keep looking. So last night, most of you know that I had cancer last year, or chemo last year, and it debilitated me. I couldn't literally walk for 9 months without excruciating pain. And I'm walking and doing stuff, although it had been very slow, but I'm getting there. I'm getting stronger. I started noticing recently that I could get out of my chair without pushing myself up like an invalid, that I could actually use my body to do it. And I'm like, you're going to be going, having some more stuff done soon. And so, not chemo, but I'm taking a vacation for a couple of weeks. So you want to be active. You want to get up and move around. So in that moment, I realized you are not who you were last year. You were light years ahead. You feel strong. You're getting yourself up out of bed, out of the chair, without the added holding and pushing. You're no longer who you thought you were. And like that, everything changed. I feel like 10 years younger, maybe 20. I feel so much more alive in the last 24 hours. Our thoughts are so powerful that we can create exactly what we need. And those of you who will get to know me more, and those of you who know me already know the story, there's been many exit points in my life, including the moment I was born. My identical twin sister died in utero and forced my birth at 6 months. And there was a healing with that. And I actually went home. We're talking about in the 60s. I actually went home that day. I wasn't in an incubator. There was metaphysical work being done, and this child was healed to go home. That didn't happen back then. It doesn't even happen, I don't think, today very often. So we can have these transformational shifts. You have to know who you are in your greatness and who you're connected to, who your core is, how valuable and powerful you are. I can say this to you every single day, and you can get a high from it. But if you don't do the work, guess what's going to happen? That high is going to dissipate, and you're going to be like, I loved being with Mia Saenz. She was so great. This is what's happened over the last 15 years. This is why I know this happens. People are like, it was so fabulous. I feel so amazing. And then they don't do the work. And then a week or so later, they're like scrambling. How come I don't feel so good? Well, it's like, what are you thinking? What are you experiencing? How are you living your life? Right? So we can show people how to do things, but you cannot learn by osmosis. Just because we rub elbows doesn't mean that, well, it does in a way, that my magic will rub off on you.
And the funny thing was, this morning I was
Sorry, that threw me. I thought that you were still muted. I didn't see you unmute. Sorry, that scared me.
No, my spirit jumped out. This morning I was doing a meditation, and it said we're going to have 10 minutes of stillness. And I was like, what? 10 whole minutes of stillness? Like, just being with my body for 10 minutes, no music, no noise, no nothing. Oh, I have to feel my body. And then I noticed my mind going to, okay, where are you going to feel your pain? And I said no. And I noticed the absence that the last 2 days I had excruciating stomach pain where I couldn't even sit up. But today it was not there, and I'm not going to look for it.
Good.
And so the level of expectation, even if you're chronically sick and have chronic health conditions like I do, even if you're in bed for 2 days, don't assume the third day that you're not going to be able to sit up and get out of bed. And the other thing was that I was reading a blog of Joe Dispenza, and he was talking about people that got out of their wheelchairs and that hadn't been out of their wheelchairs. One guy had MS, another guy had a car accident, and they were talking about intention. And then they said, when the person understands the how and the what, the why will become known.
So that's really beautiful. And keep focusing on that for yourself, right? Because for me, the how and the why, meaning the how are you able to move when you're told or your body's telling you you can't, the how, and the why. The why is because of who you are, your divinity, your connection to God. This is why I've had many miracle healings with people. This is why my company is called Women Making Miracles, the umbrella of it. The Greatest You Academy's in there, Love Mastery's in there. Even my book publishing stuff is in there for my micro book publishing company. So the umbrella is that be who you are. Recently, I just realized after some journeying with sound and light that that I am the medicine woman, that I am ready to step into who I actually am. The power of my last journey through sound was so profound that not only were my ancestors are always there, but I was working with them. The angels were there. My heart exploded open. Like the facilitator who was working with me was just like, oh my God, there's this burst of light in the room. I mean, it was crazy stuff. So know that you are connected to something higher. So this is perfect because this conversation today and the educational part is about
I'll
you.
just say that your medicine is love. Love is your
Thank
medicine.
you. It is. It is. And we're not jumping quite to the homework, but I do want to say that today it's about self-worth. It's about stillness. This is why this is so wild that all this conversation came up, because inside I'm like, well, this is what we're talking about today. So it's so perfect. Everything is on its natural path, its natural being, but we have to understand and clear our ways. Yesterday, it came so clearly that I wanted to talk to you guys about routine. Routine is so important. You might be saying, what are you talking about? That limits me, that traps me. I already have enough time constraints. What I want to tell you is, as we grow our emotional intelligence, that's healing the wounds, right, that we get triggered by, or our old stories breaking the energy, opening up to love of who we are and others allows us to be in a specific space in our own very being that we can create. And I'm going to say it, even whether you believe it or not, you can create miracles. Now, most humans have a problem with time. They don't have enough time. They don't know how to plan out their time, and they're overwhelmed. So over our next show coming out in September is called Overcoming Overwhelm. And so to overcome overwhelm, literally, you must do your work. So I recommend a morning routine. Why? It sets you up. Since I was a little girl of 7, I remember being trained. So I was raised metaphysical. We were a staunch, you could call it orthodox, you could call it fundamental, you could call it almost religious, because we were, every morning my mom would get us up at 6, we'd go to the bathroom, we'd get ready for school, we'd sit at the end of the hallway, and we would do our metaphysical studies every single day. Sundays we went to church. As we got older, Wednesdays we went to night church, evening church. The reason I'm sharing that with you, I'm no longer in a structured metaphysical church, and I haven't been since, I don't know, probably 25 years ago. The reason I'm bringing this up is we are more powerful than we even know. What I learned from my practice as a little girl was I was setting my mindset. I was setting who I was in my morning routine. So this is how I recommend my clients do it. You wake up and you are already these are practices so that you can create this to be a continual, ongoing thing. You're changing the cellular structure of who you are. So you wake up, you're already smiling when your feet hit the floor. Okay, so you may not be a happy waker, I'm a happy waker. You may not be a happy waker. Those of you who are on are usually like, get out of my face, man. So you smile by the time your feet hit the floor. So that means you wake up and go, okay, I feel pretty crappy, if you do. Or you wake up, go, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get to my gratitude. So do 5 things of gratitude in the morning. And I also believe in a night routine, and do it at night. They cannot be the same things. There are thousands of things, your keys, your cars, your toothbrush, your toothpaste. Everything has a healing effect when it's connected to gratitude. That's the conduit to the divine. That's the conduit to our higher self. And or if you can't do that, and I also tell people, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're unhappy, just smile. It sets those endorphins off. Just smile. So smile in the morning too. If you are not a happy person, start to smile. Contemplate that this morning, even if you have children, that this morning, get up a little bit earlier if you have to. If you have kids, I promise you, I swear to you, and I've never said this before, I swear, this will change your experience if you take the time for yourself. So you get up and you head to your bathroom to go to the toilet or something. You also do your mirror work. As you're preparing your coffee or tea or hot lemon water, you do it for whom? For you, for nobody else. And you're doing it with that awareness. Like Dr. Emoto's theory on water. They took 2 glasses of water. It's a Japanese science theory. And so Dr. Emoto took a glass of water and praised it and loved it and wrote all over it and, drew little hearts and all that kind of stuff, froze it, sliced it, looked at underneath a microscope, and there were like duplicates and triple or quadruple 4, 3 and 4 expanded crystals of ice. Gorgeous. They took another glass and they shamed it and they yelled at it and they cursed at it and they wrote hate on it. And what happened after they froze that and sliced it to look at it under the microscope was that they were mangled and distorted. So when you prepare your food, see, this is why everything is love. When you prepare your food, you must do it in love. You're also feeding yourself that love. This coffee was created in love. It would have been blasphemy for not to take a sip after I said that. So everything is based in love, literally. And then guess what you get to do too? This is the part that some freaks people out the first time I started doing it. It was so powerful, I'll tell you the after effects. But remember, I've studied and done this work a lot, right? For years and years and years. It doesn't have to take that long. These are the shortcuts into the love. Why are you making your tea, coffee, or hot lemon water? Because you're amazing. And you need to say that. I'm amazing. This is for me. This is to love my body, my beautiful body. Even if you don't believe your body's beautiful, start to change the vernacular of how you're speaking. I remember after practicing the I am amazing, and I'm doing this because it brings love into my body. My husband taught me this, parts of it, not the I am amazing, but to cook with love and why. And so the beautiful aspect of I am amazing is a few days later, I started to feel like butterflies inside my solar plexus. And I was like, that's what it feels like when there's a cute dude around that I like. This is, how I'd feel before I was married. And I was like, wow, that just feels so weird. And then I realized, silly, that's your beginning stages of connection to yourself. You're actually falling for yourself. And my experience of, and I used to think it was the weirdest thing, you become your own best friend. Those words were like, what are you saying? That's crazy talk. But the development of who you are is so subtle when you do the work that you're going to find yourself talking to yourself.
Can I share something?
Not yet, not yet,
I,
not yet, please. Because I'm going to go off track and I don't want to lose. This is very powerful. So, sorry, give me a second. So the love within yourself, yeah, I'm already thrown, is very, very powerful. And to be that love, you have to feel that love. Your conversation will change. You're going to start to hear, it's okay, honey. We'll do better. It's okay. Or I love you. The first time I heard I love you, I was like looking around. Who said that? Where did that come from? But I realized it was me. And although it was odd, it was also intriguing to have myself finally be nice to me. And it didn't end there, as we know. So this is why it's important for the gentleness, the conversations of love shift who you are. Yesterday, I told you about falling in love with my first son and how that changed everything. I started calling everybody honey because I called him honey for 2 or 3 years until I noticed his friends were calling him honey. And I thought that was pretty funny. This little tiny boy, hey, my name's Honey. It was just really adorable. What did you want to say, Nicole?
So when I first started working with you, I had told you that I had actually been put into the psychiatric ward. Well, I don't know if you know, I'd been Baker's acted 3 times for mutilating my face because I used to get in front of the mirror.
You did tell me that. We don't need to go into details.
So then I didn't look in the mirror for years. Like I haven't had a haircut in like 3 years. And I stopped looking in the mirror because I couldn't look at myself without deprecating myself. And then I got to the stage where I wrote, I am enough, because Louise Hay says to say, I love you, but I could not get to I love you straight away. So I wrote in lipstick, pink lipstick, I am enough. And then, that was getting me to where I was getting to because I couldn't look in the mirror and say, I love you. Right. But now, recently, about a month ago, I wrote, I am love in lipstick on my mirror.
I remember you said that.
I've noticed that when I'm looking in the mirror, or even when I'm looking at the camera, I'm not so judgmental of myself. Yeah. I feel like a softness that I didn't feel before, even though I'm just saying to myself, I am love. I'm radiating love.
That's good, honey. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So any more talks of homework or anything before we go on to today's work? Any more thoughts, ideas you want to share, clarity? Okay. So now unless I ask, let's wait until the end to speak, guys, because I got to get through. So Lori and I, we created our challenges. And Lori, she went to Harvard Law. So she is a writer. So I'm trying to, without reading it, I've got to quickly adjust it all as I speak. So bear with me. So we spoke about the authentic self yesterday and the civic self, right? So in that sense, you want to be your authentic self. So if you're not quite sure what that is or feels like, everybody, look it up in the dictionary. I have looked up things since I was 7 years old. There's a book that we used to study when, in that end of the hallway with the kids studying their morning stuff. And it was called The Science and Health. And it also went with the Bible. And there were big words in there. So I would look them up to break it down so that I knew what I was talking or thinking about. So please don't give up on yourself just to let something pass. Examine it, break it apart, have it be juicy, because that one thing is teaching you how to listen to everything else. When I write, when I speak, this isn't necessarily Mia. I'm also gifted with a divine channel that we all have it. It's our connection to our higher self, to God, whatever. So examine the things that you don't know, feel into it, begin to learn with your intuition what's right and wrong. That's another way to check on yourself, how you're doing intuitively, which is part of our self-love. We have to trust ourselves, right? Okay, so we went over the first 2 days. So today is about tools and connections. Acquiring practical tools and techniques that will enable us to establish a deep and lasting connection with our authentic self. Thinking about it, contemplating, journaling, which is writing it down, is so important. Nicole had talked about sitting for, so now let's just sit here in meditation for 10 minutes, right? And she's like, oh my gosh, 10 minutes. Well, what if you did that for 2 years? That's really what I've done for the last 2 years. I've become the monk. In between all my, healing stuff my journey that I was on, I went from anger, excitement of healing it, to anger that it came back, to actually stilling myself. Remember, we input information into ourselves to change the patterns that we are. Whatever your pattern is that you want to recreate, break, or reestablish. Okay. So I want to go over this really quick, some of her stuff, because I want to get to the meditation part, or our stuff. Okay, we've already talked about all this stuff. This is her way. Okay, so let's talk about stillness. Ha ha ha. There it is, Nicole. We're talking about stillness today. So it's super important for us to learn to be still. The reason is, and maybe you're still in it, and it's okay. There's no shame, blame, or judgment here at all. And it's not allowed here. So, if you're sharing something with me to get out of it, that's different, but we're not judging you. Nobody's judging you. So don't think that. Maybe some of you, due to your childhood or your trauma, have always had to have sound on. Radio, TV, you can't be alone. You're a little bit uncomfortable. You're waiting for people to get home. Hurry, hurry. Not because I love you and I miss you. It's like, where are they? Where are they? That's where I used to be. And so it's a common thing, especially with trauma, for people not to be able to be still, to silence their mind. Yesterday we spoke about, I think it was Daniela asked about how do we still all the voices? How do we know where the conversation with God is over the other ones? So we spoke about that yesterday. So it's the same thing of quieting and stilling. There's no judgments. It's a hard thing to do. When I first started meditating, I've been meditating since I was 7, but I didn't realize that until a year or 2 ago, because after prayer time, and I was done talking to God, what would I do? I'd sit there in silence and just focus in on what I was, had been communicating. So that is a form of meditation. So let's talk about how to get still in meditation. Our brain resists getting quiet. Why does our brain resist getting quiet? Remember, all of this stuff about the human side, I love to talk about the self-love. I also talk about the human side like this. That's more of Lori's thing, but I'm like, this is how we get through it. Lori likes to talk about the details. So the reason we can't, so I'm going to give you the quick overview. The reason we can't get still is because we haven't trained ourselves how. We live in a world that has close to 8 billion people, if it's not already 8 billion. Some say 8 billion, some still say over 7. Can you imagine the frequency if you live in a town? This is what happened to me. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I was a 6th generation, as you heard yesterday. And when my husband and I got married, we moved to Studio City from Miami. I wanted to go back home to where I was from. And so where we lived on a semi-busy street, I could feel the walls tremble and rattle. I could feel the cars. I could hear things. And it was really driving me crazy because as a spiritual being, it just was an extra rumble going through me. I was already coaching and all of that. So we have this frequency inside of us that we need to keep calm. Guess what part of it is? It's our soul. And none of us are connected to our soul intentionally until we are. None of us are listening to our soul until we are. So I'm not saying you guys aren't listening to your souls. I'm saying overall, humanity doesn't listen, doesn't get quiet enough. I don't know a lot of you well enough to even make that judgment talking to you. I'm just sharing what the world is like. So the practicing stillness is so important. It's not frightening. Remember, anything new can feel disruptive to us. Why? Because it's new. It hasn't been processed through our subconscious. It hasn't been held in there for a long time, reproducing over and over. The subconscious, as I shared with you before, yesterday or the day before, that it was so frightening for me as a little child. And also, what child sits around thinking about their subconscious? I did, which is kind of funny, you know. So it's there to support us. We are a magnificent machine where we have this brain and this subconscious and this consciousness all working to support us. So we put in new information, new patterns or ways of being that we want to do in order to produce what we want. Just like an exam in school, you study that exam for that exam and you know what you're supposed to be doing, right? So it's the same thing. Recreating who you are, it takes a practice. It just takes knowing how. Okay. Paperwork zipped away. So let's get still. In the next 5 minutes, we're going to be working through here and talking about this. Let's go through the following 5 steps that allows you to help you get still. I also recommend, for me to learn to meditate, that's right, I was sharing with you about meditating. For me to learn to meditate, in the beginning, I had to listen to sound, like elements, water, rain, ocean. That stuff calmed me. In fact, I sleep with it at night often because it's just beautiful for me. So I would imagine myself like I was in high school. I went to one of the boarding schools I went to. We used to go out into the field and lay down on the soccer field and lay down and look up at the sky during our earth science. And we would follow and track the clouds laying down, and we would discuss what kind there. I loved that class, loved it. So as I mentioned yesterday, imagine with all those thoughts running around that they're clouds and that I'm pinging them away or I'm pulling them out. However you want to get to you can do that. There's different little techniques. Even just asking it to go away, to be quiet so you can be still. Remember, talking to ourselves, telling us what we want allows us to create that. So let's remember these techniques, and they're also they should be in your integrative workbook. Start by slowing and deepening your breath. In fact, let's practice now, okay? So we'll do this as a process for you guys. All right, we're going to move through learning to still. Start by slowing and deepening your breath. Feel the air fill your heart and belly completely. I like to push it down to the lower diaphragm and imagine there's a golden light in there. And hold the breath. Release the breath as slowly and completely as possible. Let's do that now. Let's take in a deep breath. Watch it go down over the heart to the lower belly and then into the diaphragm, and watch that ignite that golden light inside of you. Hold it and then slowly let the exhale out. If you do this several times, you'll start to calm down and feel connected. Let's repeat this a few more times. Let's breathe in deeply. Push it down over the heart, letting it down into the belly, the diaphragm, or the diaphragm and the lower belly. And watch that golden light ignite and exhale. Let's do that one more time. Take in that deep breath. Beautiful. Push it down through the heart, the diaphragm, the lower belly, and watch that golden light light up and exhale. Beautiful. It feels good. And you can place your hand on your heart as you're doing it, feeling it, giving yourself love and support as needed while you take those final breaths. Remember, being in the present moment is not about thinking of the past or the future. It's right here, right now. You are using this practice to create a beautiful meeting room for your authentic self to step forward powerfully. We like to call that at the Academy our listening room. Continue to breathe slowly and deeply and ask yourself the following questions. How do I feel right now? First, focus on the physical aspects of how you are feeling. Are there areas of your body that hurt, feel tense, or feel particularly good? Scan your body and see what you find. See if you can send loving energy to anywhere that seems to be asking for it. Next, focus on the emotional aspects of how you are feeling. What emotions are you feeling now? Or have you been feeling since your last check-in? Set an intention for the day. Well, actually, before we set the intention, let's spend a minute asking our bodies, what do I need today? And what do I want? So now let's set an intention for the day. Setting an intention for the day is as simple as answering the question, what do I want for my day? Your intention can be as specific or broad as you want. It can be different for each day, or you can focus on one intention for a while and help it come into being. I like to think about a couple of different areas of my life when settling into these intentions. I might set one for my relationship, one for my work, one for my health, one for my peace. For example, I send beautiful, warm, loving energy into my motivations for doing things into my relationship with every single person. Another one is, I will pay attention to my internal world and try to get in touch with what I am feeling and needing throughout the day. Choose an affirmation and repeat it to yourself several times to keep in the back of your mind throughout your day. Do not bring in negative affirmations. They don't belong to you. Negative affirmations are, I'm too fat, I'm not smart enough. Everyone is better than I am. These are no longer allowed in your vocabulary. You have the power to create your beliefs and color the way you see the world. Okay. When you feel grounded and settled, I want you to open your eyes. You can even, I like people to rub their, like a little mini hug, cross their hands and rub their upper arms to ground themselves. Okay. So I want to talk about affirmations because most people use affirmations in a way that is not as beneficial as it is if you put the intention, the consistency, and the practice behind it. This is what I mean. There are people who have affirmation post-it notes all over their house. and yet they might see one or two a day as they're coming or going, and they're not practicing their affirmation. When I was dealing with cancer in 2020, my affirmation was, and this is, I know for a fact, this is where affirmations become mantras. Mantras are the healing element of transformation. So I would say over 400 times a day, I am cancer free. And I would use a mala, which is a Buddhist bead where there's 104, so you count them and you're moving them. Same with a rosary, has the same number. So if you have a rosary from your past experience or whatever, or your current, use that. But a mala is beautiful. What you're doing is you're resetting your synapses to believe what you are focusing on. So when I said 400 times a day, I'm cancer free every single day, and 4 months later, my test came back cancer free, and we were talking about massive cancer that shrunk the first time, a miracle healing, they said. Go write a book, tell the world, but I wasn't ready. We know why. It came back. But healing it through love and self-love is the answer. Because no matter what journey you take along with it, holistic, medical, it eases and lightens the load. It changes and moves things faster. So using your affirmation as a mantra is structuring that new neurological pathway to believing who you are wanting to believe. So you're taking yourself from your present and past place and sticking it in the future, literally. The reason, again, I want to reiterate on this, the reason we need to either move it in the mala or do it with our hands is we are actually connecting that way stronger and stronger. So in manifesting with my clients, what we do is we do focused intentions. So all of this is creation and manifesting, right? We're creating love in you. You're creating magic in your own life and your own experience. So moving forward, I teach this, the fastest way to manifest and create, to become who you want to be, is to do it in action in the present moment. Go for a walk while you're self-focusing on your manifesting, on your creating. Work out doing. Because if you're in movement, like walking or working out, and you're working on and focusing on something, there is no way in heck you can be in the past or the future. You are in the present moment. And that's one reason why it works magic like that. So we gave you examples of daily stuff, and I gave you the example of a health issue that I used to retrain the way I thought about myself. And let me share that as a little girl, my father passed when I was 13, and he died of cancer. And ever since then, I used to tell myself, this is how we hurt ourselves. I am going to die when I am 58, like my father, of cancer. And I didn't even realize that until I got cancer. When I was diagnosed at 56 or 57, I didn't even know that. Then when I had my 58th birthday, I'm like, hallelujah, I made it, and each year afterwards, hallelujah, So what we tell ourselves comes to fruition, good or bad, right? So what do you want to create with yourself? Now, do you guys have the juice, the excitement that you can create a different life for yourself? These little tools are literally the fastest way in. Not that we are trying to be racehorses. There is no race in life, but we've also held on to our baggage or our garbage for way too long. So it's time to get rid of it. So in that sense, these are hacks. on moving through things super fast. I always have a hack for everything. Even running my business, I have a hack. It's like, what's the fastest, most inexpensive way to get it out to the masses, you know? So whatever, it's about creating something that works for you. Do you know who you are? I want you guys, I'm adding this on. It's not in your homework. I'm gonna write it down to put in the replay, you know, in that email. Think about a manifesto for yourself. Who are you? What are you creating? What's your main thing in life? I've told many of you that I've met with, and some of you have heard it from other places, but there's a process I created when I got out of the wheelchair in 2008 called the Dream, Believe, Create process. And it's what dropped me into being I almost said being a nurse, and that was years ago, being into a coach and who I am today. I love this work so much. It guides me. It feeds me spiritually, emotionally, every way. It developed who I am. I had to go share it with the world. And what I ask people is, if anything, if you have not a trigger, if you have a motivation in life to support others and you've learned something from me, I want you to go and share it with the world. Absolutely. Share with the world what you know of who you are. Yesterday, one of the people that I met with on those free calls said to me, she was so beautiful. She said, oh, she's on today. Hey there, you know who you are when this comes up. I don't want to embarrass you unless you want to say hey. You said to me, you have all these little tips. And I'm like, that is exactly who I am. My following of women is because they know they can come to me and get love tips, self-love tips, womanly tips, body love tips, spiritual stuff, business stuff. I've lived my life to be who I am today. When I was younger and I went through nursing school and became a nurse very young, right out of high school, went to college for nursing, started working in hospice because my father died of cancer. And then I moved to my first husband and I opened a frozen food company at the same time. And when that worked through, then we still had it. I opened up a pet store in Santa Monica. I had that running, a brick and mortar. I was still nursing. From there, I did other stuff and I've had 18 companies. My point to you is you can create whatever you want. And so I see that as who I am. I'm a plethora. I'm a fountain of knowledge. I have a huge education behind me. And I'm not talking about a university education. Yes, I'm educated that way, but I'm talking about inquisitive into yourself, into your growth, into your body, into the women's stuff, into mysticism, spirituality, into shamanism, into traveling, or even in your mind. What would it be like to walk through the jungles of the Amazon? What would it be like? Doesn't that stuff excite you? Doesn't life excite you? There's so much that we are not gifted with, and we are so magnificent, and we are progressing in age. So don't let that fear stop you. Let it motivate you that this is for me now, to create the love within myself to accomplish everything that I desire. Any questions before we say goodbye? Okay. All right, everybody. It was a pleasure as always. I will see you tomorrow. Also, I want to let you know that we have the Greatest You Academy. I do have to just share this because it's the greatest thing. Lori, her foundational work is freedom from emotional eating. I am the love person. I don't like the word guru or diva. I mean, that's okay if other people do it, but I am me. And so in the academy, we came together with how can you structure your life to have it be a mastery of healing your emotions, of your mindfulness and stillness, of your nervous system. Because if your nervous system isn't calm, if it's dysregulated, you cannot be regulated to absorb your information and to move smoothly. And also, then we take you through an experience of the Dream, Believe, Create process in the modules, and we talk about it in coaching. How can you create that space for yourself that you want to create, the life that you want? My book, Mirror, Mirror, and if anybody wants it, I give it away everywhere. It's also on Amazon, but you can get it from me if anybody wants it. Write me and I'll send it to you. It's called Mirror, Mirror, a step-by-step guide to a life that loves you back. So if you want to create a life that loves you back, think about that. What can you create for yourself and keep going with a life that loves you back? All right, everybody. See you. Oh, wait, we have 2 chats here. You're so cute, honey. Thank you. My special person from yesterday that told me that I had all these good tips. All righty. Much love to everybody. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, everybody up here, Jody. Jill. Where are you? There you are. Okay. All righty. Okay, everybody. Much love. See you tomorrow.